The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this Landus virtual meeting. We're going to give folks just another minute or two to keep getting logged on, and then we'll get started here in just a little bit. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. If we have folks dialing in, that's okay. We'll just go through a few housekeeping things before we turn it over to your speakers. So thank you to everyone who's jumped on. We are going to be giving away some $50 gift cards to those of you who are participating today. I'll be drawing some names after the call. We always like to be able to hire local caterers and enjoy a nice meal with our customers, but trying to be efficient and virtual and social distance, still wanted to be able to support our community. So your locations will be getting a hold of the winners after this call to let you know who wins those. So thanks for joining us. We do have all of your lines on mute to avoid background noise. So you can type your questions into the GoToWebinar tool. There's a little box down in the bottom that says questions, and you can post a question and we'll get that answered for you. You can also unmute your line by dialing *6, or there's a little tool where you can raise your hand, and then I know that you have a question, and I'll send you a chat or get in touch with you to find out what your question is. So those are our housekeeping pieces. And with that, I will turn it over to our President and CEO, Matt Carson.
Thanks, Alicia. Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to be a part of this today. And I'm excited to do these events because it truly showcases a lot of the work that's gone on here at Landus upon my arrival a little over 5 months ago. And my background is I'm from a family farm here in central Iowa in Guthrie and Dallas County, where we produce corn and soybeans, fur to finish hog operation, and a little bit of a cow-calf operation now. So I've walked a mile in your shoes, and I'm excited to be a part of this journey with the great employee base that you're going to get to hear from here today. I want to start with just some thoughts for those of you that suffered damage, whether in the field or property damage to some of the winds through derecho. That's a very unfortunate situation, and hopefully those that were affected are recovering. But I know it swept through a lot of our trade territory, and it was unfortunate. For us as Landus, we were very fortunate though, and we know that. We only lost a couple of bins, and all of those bins were scheduled to be tore down, were not in use. So we got very lucky there. So all of our grain storage is intact, and we had a little bit more damage to transfer leg and conveyor in Bondurant, but we're able to patch that through to be able to use all of the facilities still in that town for those farmers. So again, an unfortunate event, and our thoughts are with everyone that was impacted. We have reached out to our neighboring cooperatives that had damage to let them know that we were fortunate and that we'll be here to help serve them and work with them and their farmers in any way that we can. I think that's an important part of the cooperative system that you all own and are a part of, and we'll talk about that a little more here as we get into this 45-minute area. I also wanted to just open with some comments around our employees and COVID. Relative to our employees, one of the things you'll hear us talk about is empowerment. And it's an easy thing to say, it's hard to execute. But it's not overly hard when you actually mean what you say. And what you're going to see on this call is many of our employees that you all know and interact with are going to speak. They should, because they are the face that you know Landus as. And I can assure you the one person you don't want making decisions for your farm is me, as I won't ever have the knowledge and depth of experience that our employees have with each of you. So it's important that we take employee empowerment to the next level. And I think this webinar really showcases that very well. And I hope you see that as we go through this next 40 or so minutes. I also want to talk just briefly on COVID. I don't know where you stand personally on the topic of COVID, and there's a lot of different feelings on that, I know. But it's important that you all understand where we're going to come from as Landus as we go into fall season. And that is that we believe COVID is something that could impact our fall season, and we cannot have that happen to the best of our abilities. We've got to control that. If we lose 1 to 2 people at any location, it greatly affects our ability to receive grain and keep the regular operations, even in our animal nutrition business or agronomy, and the levels that it needs to perform at. So we will be implementing the same policies we have with social distancing, keeping everyone out of our offices, contactless deliveries, on down the line through fall season. It's not to make a statement about COVID or a political statement. It's to do really 3 things. 1, protect our employees, and that is job 1 of any company, especially when you have the moving parts that we have. Number 2, it's to protect you. If we have an employee that has COVID and works for a day or 2 and is next to all of you and loading grain, and you all get it or your employees get it, that's not good either. And 3 is that we need to take grain. With what's happened with some of our competitive cooperatives, we've got to make sure we're open everywhere and taking in that grain. So those 3 reasons are why we will continue to implement the safest policies forward for our employees, for you, and for this fall season that we're under, as well as our agronomy and animal nutrition business. So with that, I'm excited to showcase to you the new era here at Landus and start beginning to put real action behind the words that you've heard me and many of the folks you're going to hear from today talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to Jay Kurtz, who is our regional general manager and oversees some of the locations here that are going to speak. So Jay, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Matt. Appreciate everybody taking the time to get on this afternoon. Hopefully everybody's sitting in the air conditioning, as it's going to be a little bit of a warm one today. And our safety guy sent out a message about making sure that we're hydrating throughout the day. And I asked him, I replied back, was that counting at beer too? And he said, yeah, water is code for beer. So I think after 5 o'clock, that might be a good day to have one of those. My background real quick is I grew up on a farm just north of Boone, Iowa. When I was 16, I started farming 80 acres with my grandpa's and did that for 10 years. Then shortly after that, I went to work for the co-op, and I've been here, it'll be 21 years in December. So I've been around quite a bit, very happy, very proud to be the Southwest manager for this group of individuals. Had some great employees and great locations. With that, I'll turn it over to Carl. Carl's the location manager at Ralston, and let him give you an update on what's going on in his world.
All right, thanks, Jay. Ralston, we don't have a lot of changes, as far as structure-wise, everything's pretty much the same as always. We're busy getting ready for harvest so we can be prepared and we can get everybody through here as quickly as we always do. Matt reiterated a lot about what I wanted to talk about is the things we're having to deal with the COVID. Here at Ralston, we're really strict. We want to keep everybody safe and healthy, not only employees, but you farmers too. And you can see a lot of, the topics that I had on my slide have to do with COVID. Just, we've been really, really strict about the contactless, deliveries. We're not opening the scale window. We want to emphasize it's going to be very important that you have your delivery cards ready before you get there, have it in your window, because, we're not going to be able to open the window and talk to you and figure it out. So we really need you to have it ready before you get there. Like I said, we want to keep everybody safe and healthy and get through harvest without any issues. So other than that, we did switch over to a new phone system. Hopefully none of you have had any issues getting a hold of us, but we've been working out some bugs on our new phone system. But if you need to contact us, our number's still the same, 667-3200. And then just the automation will ask you, who you want to talk to. But the easiest thing to do is just press 0, and that'll ring to any one of the customer service girls. They can get you set up with your deliveries. So we just getting ready here, and we're looking forward to harvest 2020. Jay?
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. Now we'll go to Glen. Glen is sitting in beautiful Halbur, Iowa. Glen, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Halbur location here. Basically, everything stayed pretty much the same here as far as traffic pattern. For those that haven't been here for a couple of years, we did install a 13-foot by 80-foot scale in 2017. This will be our third harvest with it like that, so we can handle pretty much any tractor wagon combinations or trucks that come across here. Once you leave the scale area like that, you will circle down around the same pattern around behind the buildings and around the grain bins up to the pit and come back around on the north side, same as always. We do have two 500 bushel pits with 12,000 bushel per hour laden capacity, so we'll do our best to get you unloaded and on your way. One thing I'd like to remind everybody, we do have a feed mill in Halbur. That's kind of our mainstay here. Feed trucks have to weigh every batch of feed that comes through here. So there are trucks that drive from the mill to the scale and then back in. So if you happen to notice one sitting on the scale, we'd ask that you be courteous and maybe stop beside the feed mill so they can back in there. It's not a real big issue. They'll drive around the circle also if somebody does pull up behind them, but we just ask that you keep an eye on that. We do support the COVID-related policies as everybody else does like that, asking everybody to keep our 6-foot social distancing like that and wear a mask when the distancing is not possible. We can put paperwork in the mailbox on the west side of the office here to have you sign or anything else. If you do need to come in the office, we ask that you use a mask and sanitizer when you are in the area. We've got the same great full-time crew that we've always had around here for the last quite a few years already. Anytime you need any assistance with anything, whether it's grain, feed, or agronomy, we have people that can help you out. If we don't have the answers, we will find out and get back to you. Just like to thank everybody for the business and looking forward to Harvest 2020. Jay?
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it. Now I'll kick it over to Josh. Josh is location manager for Templeton, Manilla, and Irwin. Josh, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jay. Customers will be only allowed in the office for pertinent information for business. You need to sanitize and have their hands when you come in and maintain 6 feet. In Templeton, we're going to be corn 16% and below will be going to the pile by the grower if you can clear the pile stacker. We're replacing the belt on the stacker, so hopefully wait time will be less. Hopefully be dumping trucks in about 7 minutes. As soon as corn starts coming in, we'll fill our pile up. And we're going into the season with pretty low stocks, so we should have plenty of space for all your grain. Next one will be Manilla. Same thing there as Templeton, only allowed in the office just to do pertinent business. Need to sanitize your hands upon entry. Maintain 6 feet distance as much as possible. Corn 17 and below will be hauled to the pile by the grower if the truck can clear the stacker. We'll start filling as soon as we start receiving corn. Going into season empty, so plenty of space for you guys. And Irwin, we got same thing, only allowed in the office as long as you got a mask. Bin assignments would be the same as last year. Shane does an excellent job over there getting you guys rotated around there, and the scale help will direct you where you need to go. Back to you, Jay.
All righty, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. The one fun fact I got to share, and as long as I guess I should probably get this, I'm going to do it, so hopefully I don't get in trouble, but we cook, have our harvest meals for the growers every year. It's a great deal. The location personnel love to do it. I'm sure the customers love to do it. And just kind of tell you what we do. Last year in the Southwest region, we cooked 1,585 ribeyes, all cooked perfect. We didn't burn any, none too raw. They're fantastic. 300 hamburgers, 100 hot dogs. The winter last year for the most served was Jefferson. On a Saturday, we served 225 meals. It was an absolute blast everywhere I go. Everybody enjoys it. I hope you guys can all enjoy that too this fall. And Matt, with that, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Jay. And I find it hard to believe you didn't burn any, but I guess maybe it's because your employees were doing it and not you would be my take. And by the way, we don't drink on the job, Jay. So your question of safety to having beer, not a good question, just for the record. So, let's keep this thing safe, okay? In sincerity, I want to again thank everyone and thank Jay and Carl, Josh, Glenn. Great job overviewing the locations. And at the end, as Alicia mentioned, we'll have a Q&A. So if there's specific questions you have relative to what we're talking about, we can answer them at that time. On the slide you see in front of you, for those that have access to the slides, what you see is this word of advocating or avocation. And we talk about that word because it is meaningful to us here at Landus, and hopefully you'll understand a little more about what we're doing there. But what I want to say here is that this is not your grandparents' cooperative. Things have changed. Agriculture is not so much its own industry anymore. And what I mean by that is you think about how important agriculture is to food and how that food supply chain is changing, how it's a key part of energy, particularly in fueling vehicles, both on the gas and diesel side, and how it's become a bigger and bigger part of data and technology as a whole. There is a lot that's going on here at this cooperative. And the biggest thing that we can do is not just buying your grain and making sure we've got a home for that, not just providing inputs on the animal side and the agronomy side, but by advocating for you. Think about all the dollars that our government has sent out for government programs, for COVID relief, for now derecho and storm relief. There is so much going on in this supply chain, and not to mention the fact that your inputs, what you do every day on that farm, has to resonate all the way through that supply chain to a consumer, whether it's food, fuels, fiber, it doesn't matter. In a grocery store, over 4,000 products contain corn or soybeans in one way, shape, or form or another. It's an important part of this life cycle. And some of the issues that we experience today, particularly from the consumer side, is the lack of knowledge. Understanding what you do, why you do it, how that plays, the impacts that COVID has had, trade, derecho, government programs, rural communities, the supply chains, and again, consumers. All of these things, we must be sitting at a table with one unanimous voice that helps explain through that supply chain from agronomy all the way to the consumers, to grain, animal nutrition, and the likes. We have a great opportunity, which is why we put Landus together, to be able to get that voice with the size and scale that we have today. So with that said, I also wanted to share with you our critical success factors. So under avocation, there's no doubt we've got to do some things well and change some of the things we've been doing. First and foremost, what I want you all as our farmer owners to know is that you are at the center of everything we do. Every decision, every action that our employees take, it's about you and how it affects you in a good or not so good way. And what that means, that doesn't mean every decision, everything we do you'll like, but that at the center of it rests our farmers. And I assure you, this team wakes up every day thinking about you, making sure that our actions do start to reflect the fact that you are in the center of everything we do. So that's why point 2 of having empowered employees is so essential. And I assure you, they are empowered. You can now go to a location or talk to one of our employees on the phone or in a webinar like this, and that they have the ability to make the decisions and assist you in your journey of making more money, doing what's right for your family business as ever before. And I understand that in our past, we maybe haven't been as diligent in those first 2 areas as we should. But I assure you, it is a new day. It is not your grandparents' cooperative, and it is a new day here at Landus. And the last area of a critical success factor is leaning into the future, particularly leaning into innovation. We must make sure that we're leaning into this, looking around the corners of where is agriculture going? What are the cause and effects of some of the things that are happened, like this storm, like COVID, like data and technology in particular? And we'll come back to this leaning into the future towards the end here, but it's an important part of this advocacy, making sure that we're helping you 2, 3, 4 years ahead of time understand where that puck's going and how we can all be more successful together. Now I want to talk about each of our businesses just briefly. First, I'll start with agronomy. On the agronomy side, we've got 4 things that we must do every day, and starting with, and by no accident, number 1, we've got to have the best-in-class farmer-owner customer experience. When you need a product, it must be there. When you need a product applied, we must be able to get there in a reasonable time. There's no room for hiccups here. And that's why putting you in the center of everything we do with empowered employees really leans hard into this agronomy section. We've got to be operational efficient, point two. And that's for every business, but here in particular in agronomy, we've got to make sure that we're doing everything in the most efficient manner to keep the best-in-class service, or the Landus way, in full motion. We've got to realign our supply chain. In agronomy, there's 3-step models, 2-step models, and even 1-step model. And today, the cooperative system as a whole still rests back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s with a 3-step model. This will not get us to the future. And we've got to find ways to realign that supply chain and take those duplications out, reinstill that we've got the best cost operational efficient system throughout the agronomy inputs that we provide you. And last, we've got to work with our neighbors in different ways. And you saw that during derecho. When things happen, we must be one cooperative system. Although I want your business and our employees want your business here at Landus, absolutely. But some of you do business with others because of locations or whatever the case may be. We need to make sure we're always here for you and working with those folks you also have relationships as well, because being good neighbors, being a part of this journey is an important part of what we do. On the grain side, we've got 3 things that we have got to implement there from a key strategy with some tactics listed under each of these. Strategy 1 is to increase origination. Make no mistake about it. Landus on the grain side is here to originate grain from you, whether that's you bringing grain to us in season during harvest, whether that's us helping you market your grain off season off of on-farm storage, it does not matter. Both are important plays for us, in season and out of season. Delivered to us or on-farm storage does not matter. We will be a better resource for you in securing that, and we'll have Sam Wingrove talk about that here in a few minutes. We've also got to be operational efficient on grain, particularly on grain, a little different than agronomy. If you look at the tactic of focus on grain quality and making sure our grain quality remains strong for high patronage for you. Drying costs, transferring. I think at Landus, we believe transferring or hauling grain was a sport. I assure you it's not. And the more we transfer and haul grain, the greater that affects our grain quality. And then last is mix and blend. And this could be really important as we look at some of the down corn, aflatoxin, all the things that could be going on in those fields right now. We must make sure we're being operational efficient with mixing and blending. And last is merchandising the grain you bring us or that are in your bins, finding markets for it. And no greater example of this was this COVID season when most ethanol plants either curtailed production or shut down completely. In fact, some haven't even come online yet. We now see the value that is back to where I think the puck is going on ethanol, with more electric cars, with more oil waivers. I think we're seeing the new age of diminishing returns on what we're going to see in that ethanol world. So we must utilize the rail assets that we have here at Landus, the facilities, and tie those into your on-farm storage and think and act globally. It's a big market out there. We need to be having direct relationships on your behalf in India, in China, in Mexico, in Canada. Wherever there's an opportunity for your grains, we must take action. And then obviously with operational efficiency, we need to take links out of that supply chain to merchandise the grain. Having as much of a direct relationship with the shipper, whether that's a rail or truck, having relationships with that end user, no matter where they are, whatever country they reside in, expanding that merchandising effort is another factor that leads back to good service to you on the grain side, particularly when we talk dividends or patronage. On the animal nutrition side, I'll start with our feed business. We've got to reinvent feed, finding new opportunities and elevating those opportunities for you, our livestock customers. And most importantly is putting the Landus brand in the forefront of what we do in feed. Although we have many partners or relationships that we have in the feed business, it's the Landus brand, your brand, that matters. Remember, this is your co-op. We all serve at your pleasure. So making sure this is about Landus and you, not about other partners and relationships, is important. And on the dairy nutritional side, or what we call dairy or D&P, we've got to expand our market opportunities, whether it's new products, processes, partnerships, or even other species. We've got to move beyond dairy and beyond the core market. Even though today we sell these products in over 25 countries, there's more we can do, especially by expanding beyond the dairy species, particularly looking beyond ruminant animals. So there's a lot that we can do in that animal nutrition side and continue to stay in pace on that. As we look to leading in the future, the first piece I want you to all become comfortable with is this topic of data. Data is one of the most important things you have. And we don't recognize that, you or Landus today. But think about how people use data. Think about all the people that get access to your data free of charge. I contend there will be a day where your data may be worth as much or more than the commodities you sell of livestock or grains. Creating profitability, sustainability, traceability, and integrations that you've not seen. So you should look for us to lean into the future of data and how we combine data to technology. Speaking of technology, I'm excited as we especially look into this COVID world that we're having to deal with today, that we have added a new feature, whether it's on our customer portal with you or our apps that we have. You can now sign different documents that need signatures right from your iPad, iPhone, phone in general, or computer system. By signing up for the text messaging in either the portal or the app, you will get a text message that lets you know there's a new grain contract or whatever may be needed in place for your signature, for you to be able to log on to one of those systems, again, the portal or the app, to sign that document. So in addition to the efficiency, it's really become heightened as we look at the pandemic and different things that could come our way in the future. So we're excited for this new digital tool, creating more efficiency for you, whether it's in the combine or parked in whatever you're hauling the grain to us in, able to sign that. So now I'd like to turn it over to your grain marketing advisor, who is Sam Wingrove, to talk a little bit specifics on some of the grain marketing side that she deals with all of you on every day. Sam, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm sure a lot of you know me, but if you don't, I'm the grain marketing advisor for the Southwest region. I've been here 5 years now. So just hitting on some of the grain policy, not a lot of changes from last year at all. You can see the FN and the damage explained here on the screen. Price later changes a little different. Corn remains the same, 14 cents up front and then 3 cents a month. The bean price later minimum, we lowered that from last year. So it's 8 cents up front and then 3 cents a month after that. And the expiration for those is July 28th this year. So I would say that's probably the only change. Storage rates are the same. Everything else is the same. Bean averaging is different. Last year we had 3 groups. This year we just have 2. Your wet beans 14% and above will be in their own group. But those are the only big changes. Really, just kind of want to reiterate, we have a lot of contracts here to help you out as far as risk management is concerned. Storage and price later aren't our only options. We have extended price, minimum price contracts. We have worked really hard in the grain team to bring on new contracts, to bring on new risk management tools that we think will be good for our producers. So I encourage you, with selling being light this year everywhere just because of the markets, if you don't have a lot sold for new crop, get a hold of me, get a hold of somebody in the grain department. We'd love to help you out. That's what we're here for. Like I said, storage isn't really an option. So I thank everybody for jumping on. I know that our locations have been working hard to be ready for harvest, even with the weather and everything. So we look forward to seeing everybody this fall.
Thanks, Sam. Well done. And it's important to note that there's a lot of other folks besides Sam that help make this happen, particularly the CSSs or customer service specialists at the locations, the folks behind the counters that also work hand in hand with Sam and making sure we are meeting and exceeding your grain needs in addition to all the others that have spoken today. So appreciate all that team does and work for our farmer owners. I also, as we talk about turning the companies to speak over to our employees, and they've done all a great job of accepting that responsibility and the empowerment and accountability that comes with that, I want you to know I'm not trying to hide from you. I believe that I want to be absolutely accessible to you to hear how things are going, to help push different initiatives and voices through So on this slide, you'll see my office number. For those that don't have the slides, I'll read it to you. It is 515-817-2104. Again, 515-817-2104. And my email is matt.carstens@landuscooperative.com. Again, Matt, M-A-T-T .Carstens, C-A-R-S-T-E-N-S @landuscooperative.com. So feel free to reach out anytime. Give me all the good stories you can, anything that needs to be changed or looked at. I'm here to assist the team in their empowerment journey and making things work for you as an owner of our company. So Alicia, I think that's all of the major stuff we've got. I think we've got 15 minutes left, which gives them plenty of time to ask us some questions and really dig into some of the things that are on their minds. So Alicia, can we go to that part right now? Is that possible?
Absolutely. So just as a reminder, you can type your questions in the questions box of the GoToWebinar, or you can use your little icon next to your name and raise your hand, and we can unmute your line so that you can ask a question. So this question, I'm going to do my best to kind of get across what they're looking for. And based on some of the pictures that we're seeing coming out of our Landus first annual Landus crop tour that started this morning, this is probably getting to be a bigger and bigger question for folks. But some of the corn is looking a little rough out there. We could be looking at mold, really poor test weights. What is that going to look like when you pull up across a scale with corn that's more damaged than normal? More FM than normal, and what's Landus going to do? Are they going to dock me to death? Is kind of how the question read.
Well, thanks for that, Alicia, and no doubt that should be on some of our farmer owners' minds for sure. So Jim Engler is part of our grain team and is on this call. I'm going to have Jim take some specific comments to this, and then Sam, I'll have you bring up any final comments on that. But I think it's important, as I set the stage for both Jim and Sam, that it's important for you to know we are all in this together. As I mentioned in the beginning, every decision, every action we take should be centered around you. So it's important to note that we're beside you on this, and we take that serious and helping you through these situations. And there's some interesting dynamics that are playing out, particularly with aflatoxin, as we look at crop insurance and things along those lines as well, that we've spent some time advocating in your behalf with the USDA, here at home with Secretary Nag, and then also with different insurance companies as well. So Jim, can you talk a little bit about some of your thoughts there, and then we'll have Sam clean up whatever you and I missed.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for joining us. My name is Jim Engler. I work in the grain merchandising team here at Landus. I've been with the co-op for almost 3 years now and been in the industry for 10. And yeah, this year, grain quality is top of mind for everybody, obviously, with what we've seen, and it was top of mind even before the derecho hit, right? So, the big issue, as Matt said, is we're here to provide solutions for everybody. And a lot of it's going to have to be done on a case-by-case basis because the grain quality is going to be so variable. I mean, it's going to change field to field. It's going to change from one end of the field to the next, and so it's going to have to be definitely a case-by-case basis. But as a grain merchandiser, our team, we're tasked with finding markets for your grain, whether it's pristine US #2 corn that we're typically used to producing here in the Landus trade territory, or it's something that's that's not US #2 and that has some problems with it. We're going to find a market for your grain. We're going to get you unloaded. We're going to get you back to the field. We're going to come up with a plan. There's lots of experience within our grain team here. Me personally, this is the third crop failure that I've seen. One was 2012, and we all remember that. In 2015, I was working at a elevator in Northwest Indiana, and we had extreme localized flooding. And the big takeaways that I take from that is, number one, everybody was still farming the next year. Whether it was, poor grain quality or they were worried about an oversold condition, everybody made it through. And the guys who navigated those challenges the most successfully, number one, they had a really good relationship with their crop insurance agent, and they knew their crop insurance, and they were over communicating with their crop insurance professionals, and they were consulting their policies. And I would encourage everybody on this call who thinks they might have an issue to get out in front of it, talk with your crop insurance folks, and really, ask a lot of questions, because they're going to ask you, they're going to have very specific asks for you for when it comes to harvesting your crops and then the documentation that goes behind it. they're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to have very specific asks. So get out in front of them. And also, they, you know, the guys who navigated it well were open with communication with the elevator, right? This is, you know, they were bringing in samples. They were over communicating. You know, guys that felt that they might have been a little oversold, you know, we got out in front of that right away. We talked through the solutions, we talked through the options. And like I said, each one of them is going to be a little different. And if you feel like you're in that scenario, if you feel like you have some questionable quality, or if you feel like you might be a little oversold, reach out to Sam. You know, we're here to help. We're all in this one together, kind of like as Matt said there. And also, you know, one thing that's going to be important to this as you go through the crop insurance process is documentation. We're here to help on that as well. We have the portal, which is a great tool. I wish I had it earlier in my career. You know, that portal is really something that you can tailor to exactly what you need in there. But if you're not on the portal, if you're not finding what you need, reach out to us. We'll get you the documentation required. Each insurance company's probably got a little different asks, and we understand that. We're here to work with you. So that would be my takeaway. Like I said, we're all here to get through this together, and we're not looking to discount anybody to death. That's for sure. So Sam, if I missed anything, you know, chime in here.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on it really well. And we just keep telling people to talk to your crop insurance guys. That's very important right now. Also remember, we do average damage for the corn. 10% and below is one group, 10% and above is a group. So I've had a lot of times where, you know, you bring in a few loads and you're worried about it, but when you're finished, that the averaging really works in your favor for variable years that I think we're going to have this fall. So remember that, you know, that's something we do to help you out too. So.
Well said. Thanks, both of you. Well done. Alicia, what else do we have?
Very specific question. So I don't know, Carl or Sam, if you guys want to take this one, but what is the moisture policy in Ralston?
Carl?
Same as it has been in the past. Same as it's been in the past. 14.0 and under. It's got to be under 14 moisture. Every year, you know, we run into issues. We try to get as low as we can at the elevator as far as beans, you know, so that we have plenty of space to last through the whole harvest. And I've got to be able to feed the soy plant dry beans, so that's been my cutoff for, I think, going on 4 or 5 years now. 14's the max, and anything over that. I hate to reject people, but that's what we have to do. We've got to have dry beans for the plant.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Carl. Alicia, does that answer that question?
Yes, it was a very specific question, and I think you guys covered that one. So last question here. What is Landus seeing for yields? Is it going to be a big change, or is it going to be minimal? I'm trying to do that question justice. Hopefully I did it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I you know, there's a lot of theories on this and a lot of, you know, tours that have taken place. I think we've got our tour this week. So Jay, I'm going to ask you to take the first crack at this as you travel around a bigger geography, and then Sam and Jim will end with your estimations as well. So we'll give all three of you a crack at this ever so popular question right now. Jay?
Yeah, so as I travel around, I mean, it really varies from, I'd say, you know, throughout the drought. The drought's I think is going to impact the region more so than even the wind. I know a lot of you on the meeting here are thinking, oh, my corn's flat. I know down along Interstate 80, actually probably Highway 44 and south, there was not as much storm damage, but I also, when I was traveling down there, I saw a lot of side hills, you know, lightening up already due to drought. I would say in that area, I think from normal, 15 to 20% off. As you get from Highway 30, this Jefferson area down south to Baird, I think personally it's probably 30% off at least. I know there's individuals that, you know, had 2 or 3 inches of rain since they planted, and that's it. I think Carl, in that area, I'd say the same, that, you know, a little lighter ground as you get in that area. So I would say if I had to throw money down now throughout the Southwest region, I'd say yields are probably off on average 20 to 25%. That's just throwing darts, but that's what my gut tells me.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jay. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jay. I think around here, the biggest thing is we're so dry. Even before the storm hit, we were everywhere in this territory was dry. I'm actually going out with Adam this afternoon for the crop tour part of the Southwest. So we'll be sending a bunch of photos and doing some yield checks for corn and beans and just seeing what we can find. But yeah, I think it's going to be an early harvest, and I would agree with Jay's yield decrease for sure.
All right, Jim, you get the final word on this one. We're going to hold you to it.
Well, all right. Well, yeah, I think, echo these guys' comments as far as, kind of locally and just to speak kind of from a national perspective. We saw Pro Farmer out last week. Pro Farmer pegged the U.S. or the U.S. crop at 177, which was down significantly from the USDA's August report, which the USDA's August report was ahead of the derecho. So, I think Pro Farmer might be a touch low with kind of some of the private estimates that we're seeing from a national yield perspective. But 177 is still a big crop. I'm using a carryout of 2.3. So when we started looking out nationally, yes, we've had a drought, and yes, we've had derecho here impact us locally. There is still, parts of Illinois are still going to produce a pretty nice crop for the consumer here in Nebraska. It looks like it's going to be okay. So I think I think a 178 type yield for the U.S. is probably okay. Pro Farmer had Iowa at 180. That's pretty low. I'm not sure we're going to be that low, but it's definitely not 200 bushel in Iowa. That's for sure. We know that. So I would call just pegging the Iowa crop probably closer to a 187 is probably kind of the number that we've been penciling here, and that's kind of what our models are spitting out. So. We'll see. I mean, it's, the models don't take into account down corn very well. So we'll just have to see once we turn the combines on.
No, thanks for that, Jim. And Sam, I'm going to go back to you just for a second. Can you talk about the crop tour that we got? You touched on it lightly, and just the September 2nd webinar we'll have on that. You want to just promote that a little bit so they may know as farmer owners kind of what we're doing there and what that looks like?
Sure. So this year, it's brand new to Landus, but we are doing a Landus crop tour. There's a bunch of teams, a bunch of grain people, location folks, agronomists, and we're going to be out and about. We have a very specific system on what we're doing as far as procedures, checking fields. We're going to kind of go by townships, and we're just going to go around and walk through some stuff, do some counts, and see what we can find. And then we're going to compile all that data and share with you on September 2nd. We're doing this throughout our whole entire territory, our whole Landus footprint. So I'm going to really get some good, accurate data throughout the whole state of Iowa, which is huge. So like I said, it's our first year. We're still trying to kind of figure out the best way to do some of this stuff, but we're really excited about it. And I think it's really going to help planning for us logistically, as well as kind of let everybody know what the state's looking like with Landus having such a big print. So I encourage you to see those results, get on the webinar September 2nd, or we'll probably have something posted on the website, but it'll be some really cool data.
Great, thanks, Sam. Alicia, have we covered all the questions? Are we in good shape there?
We had two more come in. So I think this question is specific to the Southwest, but can you talk about any structural damage? And then I saw that our Southwest Regional Agronomy Manager was on. Somebody wants an update on fertilizer prices, and if we can't answer those on the call, then we'll work on getting those in a follow-up. So Jay or Matt, you guys want to talk about structure in the Southwest from the derecho?
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so structural damage, Jefferson, Iowa, the fertilizer plant suffered some damage. Some of the plastic that wraps the tower we lost part of the roof on the fertilizer plant. This is a fertilizer plant that we utilize now just for chemical and seed storage. We do not pull fertilizer out of here. So we're looking at how we're going to get that fixed up here. There is some bends in Yale that sit right at the front end of the property toward the north that we have not used for 2 years. Those got slid, the north one got slid off its foundation. So we'll just go ahead and get those tore down there. Other than that, we were very, very lucky in the Southwest region as far as any other structural damage. That is about all. There are a few minor, we lost some signs and that type of stuff, but very fortunate for what our neighbors endured. We're very fortunate in the Southwest region for damage.
Great, thanks, Jay. And Alicia, do we have someone on to discuss fertilizer prices, or do you
No,
want me to?
they're all out in the crop tour. So if you want to take a whack at it, and then we'll do more specifics in a one-on-one follow-up.
Yeah, I honestly don't follow it as close as maybe I should. So Jay, if you've got better knowledge here, feel free, or Glen, or any of you. But I'd say, fertilizer prices, we've been out with some pricing that you should have seen. We think that pricing level is going to be a good level as different COVID and other events are affecting trade wars, particularly products coming in from China and Russia in particular. And then you add in Mosaic's lawsuit that they've got, which has halted a lot of imports of phosphates into the country until that gets settled. So there's a lot of dynamics going that's probably going to push those prices higher from where you've seen us priced right now. So I would encourage you that I think now is as good a time as any to lock in some of those prices for fall, of course, and then even looking at some of the spring pricing. I don't think you're going to regret that decision. Now, Jay, I'll let you add any commentary in case you know of something there that might be different or changing.
Yeah, Ryan Lemke just sent me a text message to give me an update. So he must be on there, but he can't talk. He said $20 to $50 per ton less than last fall. So that ought to give everybody a pretty good idea of where it should be at.
Good. And I would definitely take advantage of that if I were you all, and because I do think there's a lot of upward pressure on that business as we look at some of the variables we're dealing with, again, as I've mentioned. So thanks for that update, Jay. All right, Alicia, any other questions?
Nope, those are the last of the questions. And those of you who are going to draw names for those gift certificates, we'll be in touch with you after the call, and I'll turn it back over to Matt to wrap up.
Thanks, Alicia. So most importantly, thank you, all of you, for being a part of this. I hope you see a different Landus today, a reminder that this is your cooperative. You own this company. And these employees, like I said before, wake up every day to help make this a success, not just for you and your operation, but for all others. So it is a new day here. It's not your grandparents' cooperative, and we look forward to showing that as this webinar has laid the beginning works of ability to do that. We are going to be farmer owner focused with empowered employees to serve and live that every day as we continue to lean into the future and help guide agriculture, not just with you all, but all the way through the supply chains that exist that ag works in, from food to energy to other businesses and industries as well. So thank you for the opportunity to advocate in your behalf. We look forward to having a great fall season with you all. Stay safe and know that we're here to help in any way you need us. Thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you this fall season.